Kotetsu proposes a variety of insults Tanjiro could use once he becomes stronger than Muichiro. But Tanjiro refuses the thought and tells himself he has to become stronger. He begins to train with Yoriichi Type 0, with Kotetsu's analytical skills and newfound motivation being used to excessively critique the Demon Slayer's movements. He declares that until Tanjiro can accomplish what he wants, he won't receive food. Kotetsu shows Tanjiro another method of adjusting the doll's movements through twisting his fingers, such that it coordinate with its user's weaknesses, and compares the actions to that of playing with a wooden puzzle box. After readjusting the doll, Tanjiro continues brutally training with it without food, water, or sleep under Kotetsu's direction, because the latter does not understand the limits of a human. Just as Tanjiro approaches the brink of death, analogous to nearly crossing the Sanzu River, he becomes capable of smelling the incoming movement of the doll and lands a hit on it, earning him his first meal. After gaining this ability to predict movements, Tanjiro continues to train it and improves his stamina and foresight. In the middle of a spar with the doll, Tanjiro's newly improved abilities grant him an opening to behead it. However, he hesitates mid-swing and worries about breaking the doll. Kotetsu yells at him to strike, reassuring him that he would be able to fix it. Internally, the young boy begs Tanjiro to not waver so that one day, he will become stronger than anyone else. With Kotetsu's approval obtained, Tanjiro succeeds in landing a blow to the doll's neck and breaks his training sword in the process. He apologizes to Kotetsu for the ruined sword and, after Kotetsu's sudden exclamation, Tanjiro turns to see a sword's hilt emerging from the doll's body where his head used to be. A sword's hilt appearing out of the broken Yoriichi Type 0 startles Tanjiro, Kamato, and Kotetsu, who shout in shock. Their surprise quickly shifts to fascination and excitement as the pair attempts to deduce the age of the blade. Kotetsu urges Tanjiro to take the sword, but Tanjiro is adamant on the fact that he could not end at the doll breaking to make it appear wasn't completely his doing. Kotetsu insists that as the owner of the doll, he has the final say, and that Tanjiro should take it, especially considering how he needed a new blade anyways. Caving in, Tanjiro pulls out the blade as Kotetsu watches excitedly in anticipation, but they are crestfallen after seeing the blade had rusted with its age. Kotetsu tries to apologize to a tearful Tanjiro for getting his hopes up, but they are suddenly interrupted by a muscular Hotaru Haginazuka emerging from the woods. Hotaru mentions that he heard their conversation and tries to take the sword from Tanjiro and Kotetsu, who resist. They try to get Hotaru to explain his motive, but the swordsmith continues to try to take the sword and finally forces it out of their hands. Kozo Kanamori appears behind Hotaru and tickles his sides, making him fall limp. Kozo greets Tanjiro and Kotetsu and goes on to explain Hataru's situation. He states that Hotaru had been remotely training in order to improve his forging skills so he could make a strong sword for Tanjiro, in which the Demon Slayer happily admires Hataru's thoughtfulness. Kozo continues on, saying how Tanjiro's repeated requests for swords from Hotaru made him happy, as he lost many of his clients with his personality. Amidst their continuous chatter, Hotaru suddenly regains consciousness and confidently declares that he will fix the rusted blade. Kotetsu fusses over how he could have just easily explained before they fought over the sword, which results in an angered Hotaru lifting Kotetsu by the neck. The next day, Tanjiro talks about Hataru's progress on the sword with Genya Shinazugawa, who, angered by Tanjiro's presence and attempts at friendliness, tries to get him to leave. When he starts yelling, Tanjiro notices that the tooth he had pulled out a few days ago had reappeared. He questions him on this and shows the tooth he had picked up as proof, disgusting Genya and resulting in him being kicked out of the room. Saddened, Tanjiro ponders his fellow Demon Slayer's consistent anger. Later that night, a swordsmith strolls through the village after a bath and encounters a pot on the ground. Curious, he reaches for it but is suddenly engulfed by the pot, killing him. Gyoko, the upper rank 5, emerges and comments on the poor quality of the swordsmith as a meal. Elsewhere, upper rank 4 Hantengu cowers on a roof and states they must quickly accomplish their mission.